Hello from Columbus, Ohio. I'm Scott Foltz alongside Jason Dye. Those stories plus, it's Rivalry Week.
We're covering the biggest games of the year coming up after this. You're watching a special Thanksgiving sports talk on CFC, so stick around.
We begin this week in the Big 12. Oklahoma at home, coming off that loss to Baylor and taking on a tough Iowa State team. Both teams put up over 300 yards for the day, the Sooners moving the ball on the ground while the Cyclones did it in the air. Oklahoma scored a touchdown in each quarter while holding Iowa State scoreless in the middle of the game, but the Cyclones had a touchdown in the first and two more in the fourth and were going for a third to tie it up, but an Oklahoma pick on the final drive of the game sealed this one. A single victory formation later, and the Sooners were back on the winning side of things.
Yeah, and it looks like for once Oklahoma's defense saved them in this game. I think they got really lucky against Iowa State here. I really do.
Yeah, if it weren't for that pick, Iowa State scores. This goes into overtime.
That's it.
Yep. Well, we said Cincinnati needed to keep winning, and they did just that, running over SMU. The Bearcats put up 544 yards and held the Mustangs to just 199. Cincinnati scored two touchdowns in each of the first three quarters while holding the Mustangs scoreless until the fourth. SMU threw for one and ran for one while Cincinnati put up seven more themselves in this 48-14 blowout. I think it's safe to say Cincinnati wants into the playoffs and they're not taking no for an answer.
Cincinnati made a statement in this game. I thought it was going to be a lot closer with it being a very talented SMU team.
Yep.
Luke Fickell and company had other ideas, and
Yeah.
it was a good thing to see. They needed to do that. They had to do that.
Out west to the Pac-12, a major shift in the playoff rankings as Oregon fell to Utah in a completely one-sided game. The Utes just unloaded and were playing duck hunt on the easy level as they took down a top contender for the Pac-12 championship and the third-ranked team in the country. Utah held Oregon scoreless for the first half while scoring once in the first, three times in the second, once in the third, and settling for three in the fourth. The Ducks only crossed the goal line once in the third quarter, avoiding a potential shutout, but this was all Utah. 38-7, and just like that, Oregon's out.
Oh my goodness. Oregon had no answer from the get-go in this game, and Utah came in with a really large frying pan and fried some duck here. I mean,
Yep.
it was just very, very astonishing to see. We knew Utah was going to come in prepared for this game. It was a game they were looking for, but nobody saw this as a blowout. And
No.
man, Ducks got issues right now.
Yep. What was supposed to be a four-quarter back-and-forth Big Ten battle turned into a one-sided beating as the Buckeyes just embarrassed Michigan State. The Spartans avoided a shutout with a touchdown in the fourth quarter, a quarter where Ohio State crossed the goal line themselves after a scoreless third quarter for both teams. But it was the 7 times in the first half that the Buckeyes found the end zone that determined this one. C.J. Stroud could not be stopped, throwing 6 touchdowns to 3 receivers, plus Williams and Teague ran in one apiece. Master Teague ending his Buckeye career at home on Senior Day with 95 yards and a touchdown, contributing to Ohio State's 655 yards of total offense, while the Spartans were held to just 224. The big takeaway from this, Kenneth Walker III, the star running back from Michigan State and a Heisman contender himself, was held to just 25 yards the whole game. He usually gets 25 yards in the first quarter, and he was a big part of the Spartans' victory over the Wolverines in Week 9, where he ran for 197 yards. I gotta say, I was very surprised at how one-sided this was.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ohio State was prepared for Michigan State from the get-go. It just didn't matter. Offensively, they were just slicing up that Michigan State secondary. We knew that they were bad. I had no idea that Sparty secondary was that bad. You
Yeah.
would never expect a Michigan State team to come in with a bad secondary.
No.
Ohio State, C.J. Stroud, clearly now the Heisman front runner has to be.
Yep.
Defensively,
I think so.
yeah, and defensively they were lights out and playing it. I think that's the formula to win these games for them down the stretch. It was just, and to see Ryan Day just keep the pressure on. Just kept on it. That's what you want to see right now. If you're Ohio State and you're the fans of Ohio State right now, you want to see that, and especially coming into this week.
Yep. Starting off rivalry week, Jason, you had some quick hits you wanted to touch on before we get into it this week.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games we could go through, and obviously I can't go through and give the great detailed analysis, so we're just going to touch on some scores, maybe a couple of opinions, but starting right off the bat, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, going to be a great one. I like Ole Miss in this game, 34-31. Moving on, Washington State. I like Washington State in this game, 23-20. Moving on to Iowa and Nebraska. This game I want to touch on a little bit more. Nebraska can redeem every loss this week or these past weeks with a big win versus Iowa. Because I just don't feel like Iowa's really consistent enough. And I think Nebraska is hungry. They show it. They're losing close games. They're just so close. And I think that this week is going to be the game that they get it done in. And for Iowa, I just don't know where they're going to really rely on. They're going to rely on a kind of stagnant offense defensively, or is defense going to win the day for Iowa? I mean, it's hard telling. But I like Nebraska in this game, 21-20.
Okay.
Yeah. And then moving on to North Carolina State. North Carolina started off hot. Mac Brown had things rolling over there in North Carolina. I just don't like the way they've been going right now. I'm going to take NC State in this game, 33-30. Another game I want to touch on just a little bit more, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Wisconsin's got to continue that monstrous run game. They finally found it.
Yeah.
And I just absolutely love it. It's makes it feel like the Big Ten again, when you see Wisconsin with a great running game. And for Minnesota, well, I'm sorry. Have fun stopping that, because that train right now, it's rolling. I like Wisconsin a little bit bigger in this game, 28-10. And then moving on to Kentucky and Louisville. Louisville's been on fire. Cunningham has been a big difference for Louisville. He's playing like Lamar Jackson. That's a high compliment. Lamar Jackson actually was recognized here a couple weeks ago. Kentucky kind of has just gone into a shell ever since that loss to Georgia. It's just they've really fallen off.
They haven't been the same team.
Yeah, just absolutely haven't. And Kentucky's got to figure this too. This isn't New Mexico State. You better prepare, because this Louisville team could hang points. But I do think it's going to be a close one, 28-26 Louisville. Virginia Tech, Fuente out of Virginia Tech. VT's just playing for pride now. This kids just want to win out.
Yeah.
But Cavaliers for Virginia are going to look to put salt in this wound. I think they get it done versus VT, 35-27. The battle for Florida. Florida fired Dan Mullen this week. Things haven't been so great down there in Florida. It doesn't even matter which Florida team you root for.
No.
Miami, Florida State, Florida, USF, doesn't matter. For Florida State, it's your state to lose now. And I like Florida State in this game, 30-21.
Okay. Getting into our featured picks, out in the Pac-12, Oregon will host Oregon State in the Civil War. The Ducks have won 8 of the last 10 and lead the series 66-48-10, but the Beavers won last year's game and hope to start a streak of their own. Do they have a chance, or is Oregon the team to beat out west?
I think Oregon is still the team to beat out west. I mean, Ducks, they're looking to really right the ship after that embarrassing loss to Utah last week. They've got to get it, they got to get back. They got to get back on track. I think they got a good shot with Oregon State. Oregon State has given the Ducks fits in the past. Obviously beat them last year. And they look to add to Oregon's misery right now. But I do feel like the Ducks get it done. Little redemption, 38-21.
It's bedlam in the Sooner State when Oklahoma travels to Stillwater after surviving Iowa State last week. The Sooners hoping to end their season on a high note, but may be facing their toughest challenge yet against Oklahoma State. The Cowboys coming off a 23-0 shutout over Texas Tech, where they held the Red Raiders to just 108 total yards, while Oklahoma State put up 427 of their own. This game may just decide the Big 12 championship, or at least play a significant role in it.
Absolutely. And for Oklahoma, for me, with this game, it's hello darkness, my old friend. Oklahoma State has defense. It seems to be the Achilles heel of playing Oklahoma, especially as when you start playing balanced teams. Oklahoma found that out against Baylor. And if Oklahoma's defense doesn't show up for this Oklahoma State offense, it's going to be over. And I just think it's going to be a great game to watch. But I think Oklahoma State's their offense is going to be too much in this game. And I think defensively for Oklahoma State, they get to Caleb Williams. So I'm going to take Oklahoma State 31, Oklahoma 21.
This year's Iron Bowl could have major playoff implications. Alabama has won 7 of the last 10 of the series, but the home team has won every game since 2016, and Auburn is hosting this year. The Tigers are towards the bottom of the SEC West and have no chance at the playoffs, so the only upside for them here is to knock the Tide out of the playoffs. Will they continue the pattern of home team victory?
Bama's going to look to prove itself, after dropping, after just dropping that force to be reckoned with against Auburn or against Arkansas.
Yeah.
I just think they need to have a highlight game here. They really do. They need to go in.
Yeah, they survived Arkansas.
Yeah,
like Oklahoma survived Iowa State.
Yeah, and I think they need to go in and put the medal down here and beat Auburn, and they got to beat them handily. Bryce Young's going to continue to put up highlight numbers. A lot of his performance last week was compared to C.J. Stroud, and I just think that's a false statement right there. He did it in a game what C.J. Stroud did in a half. So just think about that one. For the Tigers, it's their game of the season. This is the game they're waiting for. They know they ain't got really much to play for. I think Auburn fires everything at Alabama, but I just don't think it's enough. I think Bama wins this game 35-23.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all we have for this week, but I feel like we're forgetting something. We have this color coordination thing going on. We're both wearing scarlet and gray. Do you think that could mean anything?
Maybe the most important rivalry in sports.
Jay's talking about all sports, badminton, everything. The Buckeye-Michigan game, the game. You can win a national championship, but if you don't win the game, none of it matters to fans of these teams. The Buckeyes are coming off that dominant win over Michigan State, a team that beat Michigan themselves in a close one back in Week 9. But the Buckeyes won here in Columbus, and now they're heading into a very hostile Big House. No one has scored more than 14 against the Wolverines at home this year, and the crowd noise is a big part of why. You could bet this one will be a sellout, so what will the Buckeyes have to do to overcome?
Right off the bat, score.
Yeah.
Silence that crowd right off the bat.
You've got to take the crowd out of it.
Yeah. Everything rides in this game for the Big Ten East in a shot to play in the Big Ten title game, and it's put up or shut up time for Michigan, I think. It's put up or shut up time for both teams.
Yeah.
A lot of jaw jacking already. Jim Harbaugh seems to have put a little bit more focus on the game this year. You hear these Michigan players, they're putting up bulletin board material for Ohio State. I think that's a real dangerous thing to do, especially, if you saw what Ohio State did to Michigan State last week, I wouldn't want to tick them off any more than you absolutely have to. For Ohio State, defensively, they got to stand tall again. They got to stand tall. They got to get to McNamara. They got to get to Corum. They got to get to Haskins. Really just squeeze that Michigan offense that can be good. It showed great flashes against Michigan State.
They did.
But Sparty found a way to shut it down and win that game. I think Ohio State.
It was a close one, but Sparty still found a way to win. Yes.
Yeah.
And a big part of that win was, like we discussed before, Kenneth Walker III.
Yeah.
He was blowing through Michigan's front four, the linebackers, and just streaking right past the safeties. There were plays I saw in that game. He's completely surrounded by the entire defense, and then he shoots right out the other side of the pile and took it on in.
Yeah, and Ohio State's known to have a couple dangerous backs themselves.
Yep.
Travion Henderson, Ryan Williams. They could get big carries in this game. And
Master Teague.
Yeah, and that would really symbolize a great victory for Ohio State if you get your backs going in there. It just really feels like this game has got the remnants of 2006 all over again.
That was a great game. We watched that one together.
Yeah, we did. And it was 1 versus 2, 42-39 was the final. Troy Smith had a great. It just all that history seems to come out in these games. It's a wonderful thing to see. Yeah. That's why they call it the game.
The game. Let's take a look at our top 10 for this week. Jay, what do you have for us?
So starting at number 1, we got Georgia. Duh. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, that was. Georgia's going to stay number 1 until the end of the season.
Yeah, they're just going to keep going. Number 2, Ohio State.
Moving up in the rankings.
Look at that. You win big. Yeah, apparently the committee sees that you're going to get rewarded big. Moving on to number 3, Alabama. Okay.
Yeah, they dropped 1.
They dropped 1. All right. Still question whether they should be there, but whatever. It's SEC land. Okay. Number 4, Cincinnati.
About dang time is all we have to say here on Sports Talk.
Yeah, I think Luke Fickell and the boys down there in Cincinnati smiling big. They earned it.
Yep.
They earned it.
Absolutely, they earned it.
And they have to keep winning. They got a big game against East Carolina this week.
Mm-hmm.
The American Championship game against Houston. I think they're in a great spot to really solidify having that spot in the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, Michigan. Obviously, if things go well for the Wolverines, they beat Ohio State. I think they got a shot. And potentially
that's a big jump.
That's a big jump.
Mm-hmm.
6, Notre Dame. This is the very interesting one here because Notre Dame, I think they got a game or 2 left, and then they're done. There is no title game for Notre Dame, and that's kind of the hard part about being an independent. Number 7, Oklahoma State. I think they're well on the way. They're probably going to play in a very excellent bowl game. Do they have a shot to get into the top 4? Probably not. But
possibly take the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, and I mean, chaos could happen, and the next thing you know, they're sitting, 4 and 5, and who knows? I mean, college football's crazy. Number 8, Baylor. Number 9, Ole Miss, and rounding out the top 10, Oklahoma.
How the mighty have fallen.
Gee,
who predicted that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something about week 2, and I just don't like what I see about this Oklahoma team and something. And then they lost to Baylor. Some guy said that and had been saying it for weeks, and
finally he was right.
Yeah, how about that?
That's our show this week. Join us again next week as we close out the regular season with conference championships. We'd like to wish everyone watching a very happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next time. You've been watching Sports Talk on CFC.